Hi, thanks for joining me for another episode of Lauren's Learning Lab. So I know that tackling design of any size can be daunting. I'm an architect and I work with clients all the time, and just the thought of transforming a space can be overwhelming because, there are a lot of factors involved. So in the next few episodes of Lauren's Learning Lab, I'm going to offer some bite-sized chunks, kind of bite-sized creative design solutions that are easy to implement and maybe not too painful. Things that you can do in your home, hopefully with some of the things that you already have. So I believe that spaces speak to us. As adults, we've had a lifetime of experiences to kind of navigate spaces that we're in without thinking too deeply about them. But children experience space in a much more nuanced way. They use all 5 of their senses and kind of internalize their experiences. A traditional school setting is not really a designed environment that's as conducive to learning as it could be. Traditional school settings are not nuanced, right? That is not a word that comes to mind. I think functionality, I think efficiency. And oftentimes, because of economics, I often think that they're crowded, overcrowded sometimes. In our homes, we have the opportunity to meet children where they are and address some of their needs, their developmental needs, academic needs, and social and emotional needs that just can't be addressed in a school setting. Or if they can be addressed in a school setting, we don't see it as often as we'd like to.
Yesterday you did some work at the little work table. How was that?
Good.
Do you like working there?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there's only one chair and you can be by yourself when you're doing it.
Do you get to do that at school?
No.
What happens when you're working by yourself?
It takes a long time, but it's quieter.
Quieter?
In the design of learning environments, when we're working intentionally, we have the opportunity to think about how we can address some of children's developmental needs and also think about how children perceive the spaces that they're presented with. When I'm starting the design of a space for learning, whether it's in a school or it's in a home or it's somewhere in between, I begin by thinking about the activities that space needs to support. How can I afford children some sense of ownership and maybe a degree of privacy in that space, a moment for alone time? And then also, we really do need to always think about the supplies. How do we store the supplies in a way that makes them accessible for children so that we, the teacher, the leader, the parent, doesn't always need to be present to hand the supplies off to the child? I balance those criteria, those things that I must consider, with their needs, their cognitive, academic, social, emotional, other developmental needs that, when I look at that entire package, I hope that the spaces that I design just help children grow and thrive.
When the activities kids are engaging in are expansive, a large, wide open zone to spread out in is important. In a space like this, without other furniture in the way, children can work together or side by side without interfering with one another. By working near other children, they learn from one another and build on each other's ideas. They build language and communication skills and learn to be respectful of personal space along with each other's creations. A wide open space is also a flexible one, and in our case, this space is also for music and movement, so the center is always clear of furniture. Any supplies like blocks or musical instruments are stored nearby in open baskets, containers, and trays, so the contents are visible and accessible by the kids. It's important to me that the kids can jump into the zone, literally and figuratively, and work without me having to come and get things for them. Everything they need is ready to go, so this zone communicates, let's play. Activity can also be smaller scale and focused. Fine motor work like writing or other focused activities is best done at a table and chairs with good lighting so that children are able to see and sit comfortably. I have a combination of small and regular sized tables and chairs for my preschool-age daughter and elementary school-age sons. The size of furniture and the materials that are stored or set up for them nearby is another way that space communicates where and how each child should be working at any given time without me having to prescribe each and every activity. This workspace is not intended for all of my kids to use at once. It's set for 2 children at a time, and since they have to sit close together when they work, it's not always the right space for them to be in if they're not up for working closely with someone. Unlike in a traditional school setting where kids are really relegated to their desks, at home we have a lot of flexibility for our children to choose where they want to work. If they want or need to have some privacy, and my sons are not working at their computers, then the small sitting areas that are set up in little nooks in the room are ideal. To adults, nooks just look like leftover space between things. But from a child's vantage point, a nook can be the right size and shape to be cozy and protected and just what they need. So I've taken advantage of those spaces by setting out things for the kids to use. You'll also see that I repurposed a side table to use in the space. The mirrored top to this table makes it a perfect surface for building on since it adds an extra dimension to the constructions my kids create on it. The open base is also a screen between the small sitting area and the block play space, so I can still see through, but the kids feel like they have some privacy. The couch that helps frame the block area is also a perch for my sons. It's slightly elevated above the play area on the floor, and my sons love to read here since it's a change of perspective for them that's a little protected, so my 3-year-old won't climb all over them and they can read quietly but not miss out on any main activity or snacks that may be happening in our space.
In my house, flexibility is key because space is limited, as it is in many of our spaces. So I've had to be resourceful and work with what I've got. I've also tried to design in some surprises to keep it interesting and keep it kind of fun. I also wanted to make sure that my kids had a choice of what they worked on and where they worked on it and when they did, so that they have a sense of ownership. You'll see that theme recurring probably in many of my episodes. The decisions I've made for my home are really based on the idea that all people, children, young adults, and grown-ups included, really flourish in spaces that are designed for them as individuals with their needs in mind. Whether we're designing spaces for learning at home or back in a traditional school environment or some kind of space in between, I hope that this time that we have to reflect on what's working and what isn't gives us a chance to think about designing spaces that are not just based on efficiency, not just based on the functionality, but are really based on the holistic needs of children, based on what they need to flourish, what they need to develop and grow academically, socially, emotionally, cognitively, and in all those important ways that, we can support as intentional creators of space and content for children. In my next episode, I'll have Dr. Sandra Duncan, a renowned author, researcher, and educator who's written many books that talk about designing environments that meet children's needs and support them in all the ways that I've spoken about today. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Lauren's Learning Lab, and follow along. I'll continue to address these topics through using design as a lens to think about how we can meet children's needs during this time and beyond. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.